All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes here. I know as a Republican and a conservative, you'll do everything you can to get rid of Obamacare, and I'm certainly glad of that. And we don't have to go into great detail about that, but would you rip it out from its roots? Would you be willing? Will you have the intestinal fortitude to vote to get rid of it in its entirety?
Get rid of it in its entirety. Some things are so infested with termites and disease, it just rip the whole thing out completely. You know, it's called the Affordable Act. It is nowhere affordable. It's a tsunami about to hit this economy, destroy health care in America. Hey, the doctors, no one talks about the doctors. These people are just going to be ruined in terms of their ability to practice medicine. So the whole thing is an absolute disaster. Tear the whole thing out.
John Brunner is our guest. 874-9390, 800-529-5572. He wants the nomination for the Republican Party to run against Senator McCaskill. Let's talk a little bit about the economy and the debt. And I'm going to start with the debt. The three largest expenditures the federal government has are the Social Security expenditures, Medicare, Medicaid, and military. And Democrats are loath to change the social programs. Republicans are loath to change our military stance. We are the world's police department. We have our military, our brave men and women all over the world trying to defend third world countries. We're getting involved in civil wars and border disputes that don't have anything to do with national security. And I don't see where the compromise comes in. And I want to know where you stand on all of those issues. What about Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid?
Well, those are great questions, and those are the crux of what we're dealing with here, and love to get into the issues in terms of national security as well as a former Marine. But, you know, just last week, Claire McCaskill said the Republicans are trying to take security out of Social Security. Well, first of all, you got to admit there's a problem. And the liberals and the left are failure to admit that we have a problem. You're never going to solve anything if you don't admit there's a problem. And this is an issue that comes up at every campaign. And Social Security is relatively easy to fix because we know it was started when the average lifespan was around 62 and it's now 72, 74. Adding a few extra months, a couple of years on that program will extend that program. But right now, there is not a young person in Missouri that believes that they're going to have any Social Security benefits. So it's the same problem that career politicians promise benefits, but never come up with how the revenues are going to come from. The same thing in Medicare. It's just atrocious in terms of all the regulations, all the problems that we do have on Medicare, and nothing that the free market and choice and competition can't solve. We have to break down the barriers of government restrictions here in order to make these programs a lot more reasonable and a lot less expensive. I look at the issue with government is you always pay more and get less. And I don't know why the tendency for the left and the liberals to think that if we just go to a central government, we can solve our problems. My faith is in people, in freedom, the principles of liberty to solve the tough problems that we have. And these can be done. The problem is like Jim DeMint said about a year ago when complaining why things can't get done in the U.S. Senate. And he said to the Republican leadership, he said, well, Jim, that's a U.S. Senate. That's how it is. That's how it'll always be. And Jim DeMint said, well, we got to get a different kind of people up there. And that's where you get people who spent years in agriculture, years in medicine, years in manufacturing to get up there and get the job done. We know in manufacturing and business that if you don't get the job done, you go out of business. So these are tough, big issues that we can solve. And I tell you, we got some great plans and alternatives. Senator Tom Coburn, who's endorsed me, he has 600 pages of what we can do. Pat Toomey has a 47-page program of what we can do.
Can you give me the gist of what they're suggesting you do?
Well, in the Medicare issue here, we have, and in fact, I tell you what I thought was a good approach, because to get the whole plans through, you got to have a program where you get Ron Wyden, a very liberal senator from Oregon, got with Paul Ryan, a very conservative congressman, and suggested, okay, you can keep the present program, or you can come with a program that offers choices for consumers in there, and you can have programs that first of all, let the markets choose through competition, where people can come and choose their particular plans, where there's all alternatives to plans. There's not a top-down choice in terms of plans.
Okay, let me interrupt you, because I'd heard there was a Republican plan, and I got excited about this. When I heard about it, I thought, wow, that is terrific. And the Republican plan that I thought I was getting details on indicated that you could buy from any state in the union. You weren't limited by any federal or state regulation about where you could buy. That you would let people who buy their own health insurance get a tax break, just as the employer does. And when I looked at those things, I thought, this could tip us back to a free market in healthcare. Is that a plan that you're considering?
Exactly. And here's the issue. When I've looked at my business, everybody wants to go from bad to good instantaneously. I always looked at trends. Are we moving in the right direction? And you're exactly right. These are the steps that will get us in the right direction. Anytime you bring choice into the equation, freedom of choice. Some people don't understand what competition means nowadays, but I call freedom of choice back into the equation where people can begin to choose. I mean, when you think about it, some of the biggest expenses are in medicine, but we're very, very careful looking at the price list at what a gallon of milk costs or a loaf of bread costs or a gallon of gas costs. But consumers, individuals are not involved in choosing from price list and being involved in those decisions. And when we as consumers and individuals begin to choose and select different programs at different prices and different options, it drives competition, better quality, better service at a lower cost, and I've lived that for 33 years.
If you insulate or isolate the consumer from the provider by putting an employer in the middle, they have no control. Exactly. But if you let me buy it, I'll decide on a lower deductible or a higher premium or whichever way I want to go, and that'll make the insurance companies directly accountable to me. They'll be fighting for my business. I never see health insurance commercials on TV, or almost never do, but I see car commercials all the time. I want them to fight for my business by giving me the best prices and the best services. And I think you do that by getting the employer out from under. And frankly, if that plan comes into action and I'm an employer, I would say, here's the money I spend on your health insurance. Go buy what you want.
Well, that's exactly right. And I tell you, I have seen this firsthand. We make personal care products, all right, when I was involved in the business, and we sold every retailer across the country. Probably all of your listeners either have one of our products in your home, if it's a bottle of rubbing alcohol peroxide or store brand mouthwash or shampoo. And I tell you what we did coming in, people call it generics. But when we came into the marketplace, bidding against our competitors, as well as the Procter & Gamble's and the Johnson & Johnson's and the big national brands, the competition was intense to the third decimal price point. And you know what? There's a great value out there, and the big national brands have to keep their prices lower because they know that there's entrepreneurs after them, after the same consumer. And the consumer and the individual, the power is transferred from a central government, central planning, to the individual consumer. That's what we have to do. Basically it comes down, do you have faith in a central government or do you have faith in the individual? And my philosophy and my beliefs is put the power to the individual.
John Brunner, our guest, and it's 874-9390, 800-529-5572. Brian, can we put some commercials off? Let's grab a couple of phone calls here.
We can do that.
All right, let's start with Marcy. Marcy, you're on with John Brunner. Welcome. Glad to have you on Hot Talk 93.9 The Eagle.
Thank you, Gary. John, I have a question. I live in a small farm community, and a lot of my friends are farmers, and my neighbors are farmers. And they're concerned about what's going to happen with the farmers. They know that some of them are still on the border for Claire McCaskill. Some of them know they're going to vote for the Republican candidate. But some of them, I think, were confused. I said, listen to John today, and maybe you can find out, because there was a commercial that Sarah Steelman put on, and it was saying something, and it showed a cow, and these people think that maybe you were for this puppy mill bill that was on before. And could you please explain to people, so that the farmers will understand if you're the right candidate they should vote for or not?
Well, thank you for bringing this up, because when you come up against career politicians, they can be quite conniving, hypocritical, deceitful in terms of their attacks. But let me tell you, first of all, the big picture, and then we'll drill down specifically to your question on the animal issue. First of all, I've been endorsed by some wonderful, wonderful people: the Missouri Pork Association, the Missouri Soybean Association, the John Deere PAC. Also, Senator Brian Munzlinger, he's the chairman in the Missouri Senate on the Agricultural Committee. good people who have vetted and understand exactly where I stand. So anyone in the agricultural community should feel very, very confident about joining in here for small, I call small entrepreneurs. We all are business folks, whether it's in agriculture or manufacturing. And it's interesting enough, and a quick background here in just a short time on this attack about, they call puppy mills or humane farming. Our family a number of years ago at Christmas time, I got kind of upset a little bit about all the gifts going back and forth. I said, from now on, let's use Christmas to help out others. And so for a few Christmases, we helped families that lost their spouses and our dad or mom in combat, buying some furniture or clothing, getting involved. One year we helped the Fisher House, another year Alzheimer's. So one time I told my kids, I want each of you to pick a charity, to get involved, research it. And so one picked one organization, one another one, and my daughter picked some humane farming group. And this was about 5 years ago. And a couple of years ago, she came back to me and says, Dad, I didn't know anything about this. What we gave money to and what it turned out to be is entirely different. And I said, honey, I was helping an organization that was providing scholarships for kids whose dads or moms were killed in combat. And for 3 years, I was behind that organization. When I found out that 90% went to administration, I was so upset that I found an organization called Wounded Warriors. I said, hon, sometimes what people appear to be and what they actually do are different. Drill down, trust, but verify these issues here. So I'm pro-farming, pro-small business, pro-agriculture, but I tell you, the career politicians will take any situation and make it a big issue. That's where my background, that's where my beliefs are. I've always been that way, and that's why these folks have endorsed me.
Do animals have rights?
Well, I think there's appropriate order to the scheme of things, and the first are human rights, and the human rights come from property rights. And I tell you what, as I've talked to farmers across the state who are challenged by these big organizations like the Humane Society of America, and they're attacking farmers and these groups that are coming out of California, it says farmers care about their property. They care about their animals. They really do. And nobody cares about your property like yourself. And you have these outside extremist liberal organizations that basically come in and are destroying property rights at the most fundamental level.
Fair tax.
Fair tax is fantastic discussion going on that issue. And I tell you, there's a lot of passionate people in Missouri. I've been handed some books. I've gotten to some reading on the fair tax. My belief at this point in time is that we need to lower the income tax to make it competitive in the world. We're the highest in the world. Let's lower that, make us competitive, and then once this boat is stabilized, let's look at these options here. I think it's a great debate here, and I think that's a great solution.
Can't get you to commit to the fair tax right now?
Well, I tell you, I was 3 days ago, someone else gave me a book, and another guy gave me a binder, tabbed, summarized for me to review, and I said, well, I'll get into that. So I'm continuing going forward. I'm not rejecting that idea whatsoever.
Imagine the federal government not having to keep records on how much you earn, where you spend it, what you invest in. Imagine the cost of goods and services dropping by getting the cost of compliance out of those goods and services. People bringing home their gross paycheck. It's a panacea for what ails us right now.
It does, and the IRS is one of the worst organizations around, and those agents will do anything. They're not held accountable for anything. There's over 90,000 pages of tax law. There are special carve-outs. The system is a sick system, and we got to have something a lot better than what we have right now, and I agree with you 100% on that.
I don't know how much you paid in income taxes, for instance, when you were running your company, but I guarantee you paid probably tens of thousands of dollars more than I did. You walk on the same streets I do. You drive on the same roads I do. You get nothing extra, but you pay more, and it's called your fair share. Fair to me is it doesn't cost you more to live in this country than it costs me. I'm not interested in percent. I want to know how much is fair. And in a dollar term, it should always be the same. Let me grab one more phone call here because we're fast running out of time. You haven't given out your website this whole time.
Well, it's johnbrunner.com, www.johnbrunner.com, and I would encourage folks to get into that website, check it out, drill down, and understand, those that have endorsed me, if you have confidence in those folks, that'll be great, but I am truly coming from the workplace, 33 years in manufacturing, the Marine Corps. I'm just out here volunteering to come and serve, just like Ron Johnson did when he ran against Feingold. 31 years in manufacturing, never ran for office, and I appreciate your help on and checking out my website.
All right, Rob, welcome. Glad to have you on Hot Talk 93.9 Eagle. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Hey, I've spent 20 years in the Army, still active duty. I spent 6 months in the Sinai Peninsula. I spent 6 months in Haiti. I spent 2 years in Iraq. And apparently we don't know how to do nation building. And one of my biggest frustrations is we continue to do this. And being an Army officer, having to basically execute policies over and over again that are ineffective, not well planned out, not well resourced. What are you going to do to ensure that we get out of the business of nation building? Or if we do, we at least have clear, concise objectives that are attainable, resource, and we can reach them.
All right, how to get in and get out. Rob, thanks for the call. Glad to have you on Hot Talk 93.9 Eagle. You've got about 45 seconds.
Well, thank you again for your service, and exactly the situation. We do not have any leadership. We have no defined mission. We have no resources allocated to serve that mission, and the term victory has never been used by this administration. And Congress should be involved in terms of a declaration of war for any extended conflict. The Constitution is very, very clear, but we need leadership. We need more people who have served in the military like yourself, sir, to be engaged and be involved, because you understand what it's like. I just had a good friend whose son was hit by an explosive device there in Afghanistan, thrown up in the air. He's a medic, and told the story about how he came from unconsciousness to save this guy. What are we doing over there? Unbelievable.
JohnBrunner.com, is that right?
www.johnbrunner.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service. Wish you the best of luck.
We'll keep fighting the good fight, and I'm asking folks to choose a citizen senator, not a career politician.
All right, JohnBrunner.com. Fox News is next. We'll be back with more on Hot Talk 93.9 Eagle.